Crujiente means crunchy.
All right. We're back. Sorry about that brief interruption. We're back right now. Shout out to everybody over at Rumble right now. We had a slight your digs, little technical difficulties. But once again, this is the check-in. I am your boy Heat Detector.
It's your boy Jizzo.
And we got a special guest tonight.
Hugo the Juice Man Jay.
All right, Hugo the Juice Man Jay. And this is, like I said, this is the check-in. And before we get started, like we always do, we're going to give you the disclaimer.
All the views that are expressed on this show are our views solely, and they don't reflect anybody else's. We're not licensed therapists. We're not licensed psychologists. We're just a couple of men coming together with things that are affecting us as men that we're learning or attempting to better ourselves in different situations, mental health things, relationships things. And we've had women and men call in. So don't sue us, man. We're just out here talking and trying to better ourselves.
Yeah, and as I say, if you have cotton candy ears and you dream of bunny rabbits and all that type of shit, just get the fuck off this page. We're going to be saying things that may offend. We may say some things that won't offend, but if you have any intent and you don't like what you hear and your intent is to flag us or do anything like that, save yourself the trouble, save yourself the time, the drama. Just go to another page. You don't have to be here. You don't have to listen to any of it.
But you should be here.
You should be here, but you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? We're not forcing anybody. And if you got your emotions on your sleeve and shit like that, because we will say things that are going to be uncomfortable. If you don't like it, just move on, man. We ain't mad at you. Just move the hell on.
And also, we got another person in the building. Shout yourself out. Introduce yourself. Oh, you don't have a mic? All right, my bad. We got Ill in the building. Ill Matter in the building.
Yeah.
Producer for the show.
So tonight, I think it's kind of a touchy subject. I mean, because a lot of people don't want to talk about it. A lot of people just, and there are people who think it doesn't even exist, childhood trauma. And the childhood trauma, the things that you may have went through as a child and how they affect you as an adult. You know what I'm saying? There'd be shit that happened to you as a child that you may not have thought or think that it affects you as an adult or affects your behavior. And it absolutely does. I said once before in one of our earlier podcasts when the show was first starting off, I had said that when I was in New York, when I was living in New York before I moved to Chicago, there was a poster that was on all the trains, and it really struck me because it was just it only had a few words, but it had a kid sitting at the bottom of the stairs, and it had a silhouette of the parents like they were fighting, and underneath the kid it said, "The world's most sensitive listening device." That was it, and it had like a phone number and shit and some other shit, but that shit always struck me. And when we talk about childhood trauma, like I said, some people don't know that it affects them. And I was talking to someone earlier talking about like my childhood, and there were things that were in front of us, but that were explained to us different ways. And I didn't understand what those things were until I got older. You know what I'm saying? But those things directly affected how I maneuvered as an adult. They directly affected how I maneuvered as a teenager. They directly affected me up until this day. They still affect me as I'm working on fixing those things because they were real traumatic. Some of them, they weren't traumatic in a way that hurt me physically, but they were traumatic because of the things that I seen. You know what I'm saying? The things that I was privy to as a child that I shouldn't have been privy to, and other people's behavior became my behavior.
I want to ask you a question, and I wanted to start off before we started talking, but it's fine. This question has to do with this entire topic. Is anybody else responsible for the decisions you made as an adult?
Fuck no. No.
Okay.
I'm 100% responsible.
The reason that I asked that is because if your answer was going to be hell no, no one's responsible for your decisions, how do we incorporate this trauma that we incurred as children then? How does that... And I'll tell you, I'll just be fucking super transparent about why I'm saying this to you. My dad went to jail when I was young, and he was in jail for 7-8 years of my childhood. And as an adult, I made decisions, and I remember talking to him one day, and he said, and I try to like blame him, and he said, "You're responsible for the decisions that you made. I didn't make you make those decisions." And I'm not saying that I agree with it or that I don't, but it made me think about it. Like, well, okay, then if we agree that no one controls your decisions as an adult, then how does the childhood trauma trump? How does it trump that?
That's
Jason,
easy.
what do you think about that?
So basically, you guys are breaking me in right now. I'm a little nervous, but I speak
You're
about
good,
this.
brother. You're with your brothers right now. You're good.
I speak about this to people a lot, and it's my belief. I mean, if you guys could correct me if you guys think I'm wrong, but look, I believe that every human has a different way of handling situations, and every human is different in the way that they end up making decisions in life. So what happens, right? You have some humans that are led or that are more influenced by family, right?
yeah.
Some humans that are more influenced by external things like friends, people from the street, or people that they might follow, what you call the follower, right? And then you have some humans that are more self-driven. I believe that there's three things that make you who you are. First of all, the surrounding, right? It could be family or it could be no family. You didn't have no family.
Yeah.
That makes who you are in the future. Second thing, who you are. Are you a follower or are you a person that even if your surroundings are bad or people around you you're like, no, I do what I want. I choose to do. And then the third thing is, okay, you got family, yourself, and the people around you. Are you more driven by these people that have this influence? I want to be like John. John is cool. He's got a Cadillac. He's got this. He's got women. And now, I always tell them I think that there's three things, and which one of those pulls more?
Yeah.
You, influence, your family.
You don't know which one's gonna pull. I had a conversation with my dad about a family that we knew was friends of my mom, rest in peace, and they were friends of hers. And the lady who was the mother, she had a serious drug addiction, and me and my dad, with our cups half empty, said, we always used to say, like, man, anytime you're raised in a family and they're all messed up and all drugged up, you're just going to end up drugged up and this and that. But believe it or not, the daughters of that lady who was all on drugs, they grew up to be like super smart, like college educated, like artists, premier artists, like really great people. And it was like, man, you see, it could be sometimes about your situation, your surroundings, but also maybe her surroundings were so bad, that girl, that it made her say, I'm straight on this life. Like, I'm going to go to school and get good grades and make money when I get older. So, it's a choice. It is kind of a choice. Like, when people just say, oh man, it's the hood, man, it's I can't get away from it, it's this and that, it's the block, I just can't get away from the block and the this and that. Like, yes, sometimes that's true, but nah, bro, you make your own decisions in life and you can get away from that shit. It might take a drastic change in your life depending on the situation, but you can definitely get away from it.
I think you're missing the point. I think you're missing the point because there's underlying things that happen to you as a child that you don't recognize. So say, for instance, and I'm not saying this happened to you, but for instance, your father being away and being incarcerated for a good majority of your childhood may lend itself into you having abandonment issues. You know what I'm saying? And you won't recognize those abandonment issues unless you understand it. So that could lead to you being in relationships, ones that are fucking no good for you. That could lead you to constantly being in a relationship. I know somebody right now that can't seem to be single because of their fear of being single, their fear of somebody leaving them. Their fear is so fucking hard on them that they instantly tell someone that they love them. They instantly fucking say shit. They instantly automatically, and they try to put these hooks into them because their fear of being alone, because of things that happened to them as a child. There were things that happened to me as a child that I didn't recognize that affected me up until I became an adult. And even some of those things that I recognized after a particular time, the choices that I was making, I thought they were dope because I thought those things that affected me were dope at the time. You know what I'm saying? Not understanding that those very things led me down to a whole bunch of other shit that led into these different behaviors and these different things. But all of that shit stemmed from my childhood. The violence, you know what I'm saying, that was extended to me in my childhood, the drugs, the propensity for violence, period. You know what I'm saying? and that had me. I had a false sense of needing to be violent, or the thought of needing to be violent all the time, or if I'm confronted, or being an abuser in a relationship, not the you know what I'm saying, the victim of anything, but the abuser, the motherfucker perpetrating the goddamn shit, the abuse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
But not even realize that's what I was doing. But the environment that I was in and the things that I seen as a child, which was, you know, shut the fuck up, go make me turkey pot pie type shit, you know what I'm saying, was the very shit that when I didn't get the answer and the things that I wanted, it was violence.
Yeah, because
You know
because that's what we were taught. I literally maybe like a week ago was talking with a friend, and I said, you know, a lot of my mannerisms, especially the ones where I get upset, where I get mad, I look back at my dad and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like it's exactly how he gets upset. Like I get upset the same way my dad gets upset. And ironically, we have like the exact same voice. I know this is weird, but like since I was little, a teenager, we've had the same voice. And so like his family will call friends of his, and I'll pick up like, hello, and they'll be like, hey, what up, Felipe? And I'll be like, hey, what's up? And I'll fuck with them and start talking to them for like a minute, and then be like, hey, it's not me, it's I'll get my dad right now. But so many things are similar. And you know, when you said that a second ago, bro, like that, I had to like think about it for a minute. Like,
What's that?
when you said like about the abandonment thing, about like him being in jail, I thought, because I do struggle with that. Like on top of that, like my mother died when I was 16, so I always feel like I'm gonna lose something,
and that
or
shit
somebody.
was traumatic.
Super traumatic, and I always feel like I'm gonna lose something, and it's. But I know I'm not the only one, because everybody's experienced losses, and so everybody probably had.
Everybody has had loss. Everybody has had violence. Everybody, you know, no one has lived a fucking perfect life, you know, because I said it to someone the other night, like, you know, I might not be able to walk a day in your shoes, but you might not be able to walk 1 minute in mine. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So even though, and we could have witnessed the same trauma, the exact same trauma.
Yeah.
But how it affects us is going to be completely different. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the old adage, one man's trash is another man's kingdom. You know what I'm saying? But this shit hits everybody different. But recognizing that shit is the hardest part. You know what I'm saying? Recognizing that's where a lot of these shits stem from. Some of your behaviors or character traits, or, you know, things.
How I get mad. Like I was just saying, like that shit's just like what I learned when I was growing up. And so my dad was a drug dealer growing up, and when I got older, I realized that I didn't know how to work on a fucking car. I didn't even know how to change the oil. And I realized this before the times of YouTube. And I'm like, man, I'm screwed. I don't know any of this. My dad never worked on a car. But in the same token,
that shit will have you holding resentment.
But in the same token, I had friends of mine, buddies of mine for years, that I saw them, and my guy'd be like, yeah, I just changed the transmission on my car. And I'm just like, fuck, but their dads were mechanics. And so they grew up in a garage with tools in their hands. Right. So it's like, yeah, man, it is kind of what you were given. Like, my dad was a mechanic. I don't know how to fucking work on cars. I know how to sell an ounce.
Right, exactly.
I know how to sell an ounce, but I can't fix a car. Now I can fix a car, because as I got older, I said, fuck that shit. Like, I'm good. I need to learn how to do simple things. I'm not about to go drop all my money at mechanics. And so thanks to YouTube and things like that, I learned. But yeah, man, we're constantly, what do you think about that, Il? I want to ask you, like, and I don't know your situation with your parents, but specifically about your father, do you feel like you take on the same characteristics and traits that he has?
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like that's a part of being self-aware too, that helps you unlearn those behaviors, because when you're an adult, like we said, accountability, you know, you're an adult, you're able to unlearn certain shit, you know, certain shit that you're not okay with yourself. I find myself having a lot of stuff in common with my dad, you know. That's me being self-aware as an adult now, where I'm luckily in time to change those things, you know. My dad tends to shut out, be in his own little world when shit's hitting the fan, you know. And me, I don't think that's the best way to tackle certain shit when shit goes down or shit hits the fan. It's shutting down and, you know, being in your own little world. There's times where you do need to walk alone and stuff like that, but it's not always the only option. And you know, like the voice thing. Sometimes when I talk Spanish, I be sounding like my pop sometimes, you know. And it's like, you know, I'm not saying I've had the best relationship with both my parents. You know, everybody has their times with their parents where they're not seeing eye to eye and shit. And I've had that especially with my pops more as in later years and more adult years. With my mom, is me being a rebel type stuff. But like with both parents, yeah, you definitely pick up on the traits that you start catching. And it was also a thing of my mom telling me, you're acting like your dad right now. Or hearing those type of things.
Those kinds of things also too. Like that's for some people that could be traumatic.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially if your dad was a fucked up individual. You've been told that person was a fucked up individual and did all of these things, and now you're being told you're just like him. It's gonna fuck with your self-esteem. It's gonna fuck with how you think. It's gonna fuck with how you behave. You know what I'm saying? You may end up having an attitude like, well, fuck it. If I'm like him, then I'm gonna be like him, and I'm not gonna give a fuck.
Exactly.
I think one of the important things that that Mateo just said was the self-awareness, and I think more in the last 15 years that social media, 20 years, 18 years that social media has been around, there's a higher level of awakening, because now there's videos that people are watching where they're videos talking to you and it's telling you you're a better person. You don't have to put up with this, but you know, this and this and that. So,
but it also becomes a blurred line.
I think there's a higher level of that now.
It also becomes a blurred line too, because social media, what it's also done is create also a delusion, a certain level of delusion where people run to social media and act out the person they wish they could be, you know?
Yeah.
And they're not behind social media. They're not doing anything of the groundwork to be that person in real life.
But even the age like level, like you mind disclosing your age?
I'm 20. I just turned 27 not too long ago.
Okay, bet. So I feel like, and when I speak to you, like I can tell like you're like self-aware, and I feel like the 25-year-olds of 20 years ago are not as self-aware as you are currently of yourself. Like, you know, I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40, but I feel like, yeah, man, like there's just more things to learn on and more people self-aware, you know?
Dude, when I was growing up on some real shit, when I was growing up, by the age of 21, you were supposed to already have a fucking house and a fucking all kinds of shit. By the age of 30, if you didn't own a home, the thought was your ass was a failure. If you didn't own a home or have a car, a home, or at least renting a house or something, and even married, by 30, be married and have kids. Mm-hmm. But that was the goal back then. Like that's the agenda that was pushed.
So you guys are touching some great topics, and I'll tell you this: what you do, the evidence. What is the evidence of the things that you do that it's working, right? What is the evidence? So you could sit there and say, I'm not gonna be the guy to fall in love fast, and I'm not gonna be that guy, and I'm not gonna fall in love fast, and I'm this time I'm gonna change. Check this out. I'm not gonna tell girls I love you no more, and now I'm gonna be a player in this. And then what happens is, usually if you try to suppress these things, the true feelings come out. Sometimes you can't force yourself to be that guy. Because then what happens is you'll force yourself to do this, do that, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, I'm tired of this. I love you, girl. That's it. And then from those things, you learn in life, Sometimes things happen, you do it, and then you're like, oh, I'm able to correct what I don't want in slower ways and not just completely changing like that. I want to ask you guys a question. How important it is for you guys to live in the now?
First of all, let's backtrack.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
we got to answer that.
Oh, no, for sure. Because that's something that I talk about all the fucking time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to disagree with you on a matter, because number one, we're talking about trauma. Okay. Decision making is a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? But when you have something like seeing your friend's head get blown off in front of you is traumatic as fuck.
Oh, yes.
It's going to fuck with you in some way, shape, or form if you don't address it. You know what I'm saying? It's going to play itself out in other ways. You know what I'm saying? My brother was killed in a car going through a green light. I wasn't in the fucking car, but I have PTSD from that shit. So like every time somebody driving fast, I get overly fucking nervous. I have these visions of the car flipping or it's getting
Is that why you
smashed in.
said that to me?
Yeah, that's exactly
Last
why.
night?
Yeah, that's exactly why. I mean, I have those
Berto,
problems.
I mean, it's an insider, but we were on the expressway last night, and I probably hit like 85, 90 on 94 going to sub T.
and that shit was driving me fucking
And
shit.
he said to me, but you said it really calmly though. You didn't freak out.
Right.
I'll give you that.
Well,
you
I've been
didn't freak
working
out.
on
You
those
just
things.
said like, "Hey, why are you going so fast?" And you said it real calmly, like, "Why are you going so fast?" And I was like, "You're right." And I slowed down.
Right.
But yeah,
But the
that's,
thing
I
is,
didn't think about it.
yeah.
That's your
Well,
trauma.
of course, that's my trauma.
Oh, shit.
My brother passing away and getting killed and being struck by. He was.
I
Going
knew
through a
about
green-
that, but I didn't
he was
think
going
that the
through a green
trauma was
light.
affecting you.
Yeah,
I knew about that
trauma
story.
affects everybody differently. Even driving, when I'm driving down the street, you have no idea when I'm going to an intersection how my eyes are darting back and forth because my brother's going through a green light in the car. They just hit him. The police were chasing someone and they hit him.
Yeah.
And so I'm always every intersection. I am fearful at every fucking intersection. And it used to be so bad that if anybody else is driving outside of me, I would be losing my shit on the other side on the passenger seat. If it was my girlfriend at the time or anybody, maybe one of my sons or something, anybody, I would lose my shit. Even if it felt like they were driving fast and not paying attention to the intersection. The intersection really fucks me up. You know what I'm saying?
But that just attests to trauma, brother, because that's adult trauma.
Yeah, that's adult trauma.
We
We're
said
not talking about
the
child.
topic
No,
is
I'm just saying.
child trauma, but look
That's
at even
adult-
adults fucking face trauma.
Hell yeah.
So why wouldn't a kid
Right. So
be traumatized?
What he was saying about making a choice. First, you have to be aware. Once you become aware, now you're getting into territory of, okay, now I have to make the choice to do the right thing or the wrong thing, right? So when you made the comparison of, okay, I don't want to be telling these bitches I love them, so I'm going to be like, now fuck that, I'm going to be a pimp or a player, whatever. But or on the other spectrum of that, you can say I'm going to take my fucking time. You know what I'm saying? And get to know this person, right?
And that's
that's when the choices come. But before the fucking choices, you must be aware of it. And if you really want to be aware of something, you have to be in the moment every fucking day. And that shit takes work. That's the hard ass work. That's like as D-Nick always says, 1 + 1 = 2. We all know this. It's the execution of the mathematical problem. It's you know what I'm saying? We can see it, but it's the execution.
Yeah, that I would say, and that work, a good way to go about that work is making a self-assessment at night.
Right.
What do I want to improve?
We've
in?
talked about
Yeah.
this, right?
What do I wanna
Self-assessment.
improve?
Absolutely.
I'm cursing too much. I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy that's cursing too much. I don't, and or whatever it is, But man, making a self-assessment is
That's being
I love
aware.
it.
That's being aware. When
That's
you
dope.
become aware of it, then you start the assessment process. Okay, now what do I do to fix this or fix me? Because you can't. First of all, let's be very clear, everybody. And I say this all the time. It's a little analogy that I made up, and it's you cannot hold the past hostage and try and kidnap the future. You can only be right now, right here, right now, in the moment. And this is what I ask people all the time, especially nowadays, is if somebody's upset or whatever at me, if I did something, wrong or did whatever, I really don't ask for forgiveness per se. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I'll apologize. I'll be whatever, remorseful for whatever my actions were, even in the past. But I can't do anything else about that. Because I got to move forward. And the only thing I ask of someone is to be in the moment with me. Because if you're in the moment with me, you'll be able to see the changes and you'll be able to see the progress. But I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it because I need to be better as a person. You know what I'm saying? You look like you're dying to say something. Say it.
So, I mean, it's just so interesting. The topic is so interesting because, like, I tried to tell myself, yeah, I'm living in the now. But why is it that sometimes that it just doesn't come till it comes? Like, you could try to tell yourself, like,
Because you cannot kidnap the future. When you want to talk about being in the moment, you have to stay in the moment. You don't know what the fuck is going to happen an hour from now when you get up and walk out of here. You know what I'm saying? You have no idea. You know where you're going, you know where you're headed to. Your thought may be, I'm going to head here and do this and do that and X, Y, Z, but you don't know how that X, Y, Z is going to actually turn out.
Yeah.
And you have to be aware of that. And, you know, it goes all the time, man. It goes back to the work. You know what I'm saying? In the beginning, it may be hard to constantly be aware of how you're treating someone, how you're talking to someone, or how you're doing something. But after a while, it's like muscle memory. You do jujitsu. When you first started jujitsu, it was hard as fuck. Not saying it's not still hard, right?
Yes.
But as you progress, things became easier for you to understand, for you to process, and even in being when rolling. For those that don't understand what that means in jiu-jitsu, it's like wrestling on the floor, for those in layman's terms.
Sparring.
Right, sparring. But when you're in that moment, and after you have practiced this so many times, you remember, you say, okay, now I put my leg here. When this happens here, I move this way. I do this. And it's the same kind of concept in life. In the beginning, those first steps are going to be horrible. You're going to catch yourself all the time, especially if you're aware. You're going to catch yourself all the time, like cursing or whatever in the fuck it is. And I just curse, but whatever it is, you're going to be aware of it, and you're going to say, "Oh, damn, I should have caught myself," or "Damn, I should have did this," or "Damn," and it's going to be difficult. But as you practice this and as you do this every day, it becomes habit.
You should work on the cursing.
I mean,
But-
shit.
so-
I say what I say.
But
Goddamn it.
basically, also too, look, jujitsu with stuff
Don't
like
go deep into a whole bunch of jujitsu shit. I just used it as an analogy.
It's staying in the topic. What I'm
Right.
saying is, even jujitsu, I discovered things in it that I thought were a certain way and were not that way.
Right.
They weren't that way.
But that's life, though, ain't it?
Yeah.
Ain't that life? You thought things were going to be one way, and the fuck, you turn around and they're not.
It was crazy, and
You thought you was a good-ass dude. And it turns out that you have all this traumatic shit that happened to you, and you've been behaving a certain way for so fucking long. And then you turn around and you look at yourself and go, God damn.
Bad
that's
habits.
That's not what I thought I was.
Hey,
That's not the person I thought I was.
yeah. It's that realization, that self-awareness at whatever
Yeah.
fucking
But-
age it
but
comes.
guys,
you
also-
know? Like, seriously.
also too, living in the now does not mean that you don't think about the future or the past. Living in the now.
Bro, stop it. You can think about the past all you want. Again, listen, you cannot hold the past hostage.
Let him
And-
get his thought
No.
though.
But hear me out. You cannot hold it. You can think about it all the time, but you can't hold it hostage. And you sure in the fuck cannot kidnap the future.
But it's valid in the future, though. Your past is 100%.
You can think about the future.
It's valid in the future, though.
Sure. No,
So
what's
look-
valid? You don't know. The fuck? You don't know what's valid in the future. You don't know what the fuck is going on tomorrow.
For instance, alcoholics need to acknowledge that they were alcoholics to
No, they
move on
don't.
in the future.
I didn't.
We've had this conversation.
No,
So-
I said an alcoholic that is going to
You
alcohol
have to
class-
acknowledge the problem.
I acknowledge I had a drinking problem, but that's
There it
where
is.
the buck stops.
That's fine.
It's
So
minimizing.
I don't harp on the past of it.
But it's stapled in the in history.
Like I said,
you know it.
I can think about it,
yeah, you
but
don't
that's where it
erase
stops.
Just by hearing you, I could feel that you're holding some of it hostage too. I could feel it, some of it, at least maybe a slight amount. But what I mean is, when you live in the now, doesn't mean that a thought comes through and you're like, remember that time you messed up and you crashed that car, or you were drunk that day and you did this, or you remember it, but you don't, I would say, hold it hostage.
Right.
You don't dwell on it and you don't overthink it. Oh, yeah, you messed up. I remember that. Guess what? I'm living right now. I would say one of the greatest analogies that I've been taught, and David, shout out to David, helped me out so much in life. I don't want to disclose everything that he was or what he did, but he knows who he is. But basically, imagine like you're driving a car, right? You're driving a car and you got anxiety and depression in the back. And maybe let's say temptations there too, to the right? They're all trying to drive. When are we gonna get there? Let me drive. Don't make that right. Stop. Hey, remember when you did this? And then the other one's telling you, don't mess up again. Don't do what you did last time. You got anxiety. Just take a little bit of drugs. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Don't worry. Tomorrow you'll make it to work. Why? Because the mind is doing its own thing. It's seeking pleasure and things like that. But you are the one driving this car. I hear you. I understand what you're trying to tell me, but I am the one driving this car. I understand not to mess up. I'm the one driving. I understand what I did before. I'm the one driving.
No, I feel that when you said that you felt that I was still holding on to it, is it because I said that you have to acknowledge the past in the future still?
I would say probably deeper than that.
Tell me, bro. I want to know.
Man, sometimes in life you get so experienced with human interaction, and just, I would say, everything, expressions in your face, the way you were trying to go about it. It might be a minimal amount that you're holding on to, but man, I guess when you get old and when you're a person that naturally is looked for among your peers, among your friends, you're the person they call when things like this happen. And it's just something that happens. You're like, whoa, this is God's gift to me. Why when everything is there, I can't do this. I can't. So you're telling me what is not already going to happen? You know, that's why you can't do it. And to me, they might seem easy and common sense things, right? Or whatever it is, right? But to them, it's they're facing this thing, you know? But holding on, I completely live in the now. You know, I would say, you know.
So you don't hold on to anything?
No, I forgave myself for these things.
That forgiveness is a motherfucker. That's a motherfucker. But look, let's get back on track with the trauma.
I want to say, let me do this because I've been holding on to it for a second. Y'all know that I like to go into the phone and shout out to Shy. Jesus Christ.
Just say Sheba. I've been
shout
calling her
out to Sheba. I'm done saying that. So I always go into my phone and we like to get exact definitions. I looked up what is considered childhood trauma. The answer was psychological, physical, or sexual abuse, community or school violence, or witnessing or experiencing domestic violence, national disasters, or terrorism. So
it could be abuse. It could be all of that shit.
And we talked about all that. Any one of those things affects you. Like the kids in Palestine getting bombed on, and all the kids involved, even the kids in Israel. Like they all, in 30 years from now, when they're 36, 37, 38, they're going to be sitting somewhere talking about how the fucking bombs got them still.
They're going to be acting out if they don't seek help. They're going to be acting out in all types of different types of ways because of the
affected
trauma.
by the situations. Yes, affected by those kids. Come on, bro. I can't even watch the videos on online about all the people murdered in Palestine. How do you think it feels to be there? If I can't even watch it on my phone, what is it like to be there? You know, those people were traumatized forever. Like, shit makes me feel like my life trauma doesn't even stand up to that. Like, because of, you know.
What is more important to that kid? Revenge? What is more important to him?
What side was he? That depends on what side he was on.
Let's
talk about the bigger question is, how did the trauma affect him? That's the bigger question. Because the revenge and all that shit doesn't come until his motherfucker sees how it affected him.
So it could affect them good or bad.
True.
Exactly.
So here's the thing. So some people, it moves in different ways. So I was talking earlier to Mateo, as a matter of fact, and I've talked about it on the show, so I don't have a problem with talking about it now. My informative years, which are from 2 to like 6, those are informative years. I saw prostitution, drugs, violence. The man that raised me,
Are
was
you
a
gonna talk
pimp.
about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
was a pimp, a real pimp, a pimp for real. He had
Like
multiple.
he had hoes and shit.
He had
bro.
hoes. He had at least that I can remember at least 11. He was always going to Vegas all the time. He was always gone. My mom was what was called the bottom bitch. So she took care of all the finances.
What's a bottom?
I'm explaining. She took care of the house, took care of the finances, took care of the kids, took care of everything, and if need be, put those bitches in line too, right? So he only took my mom out. So she was the trophy piece. We were the trophy piece. We were supposed to be dressed a certain way. Everything was...
You and your brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Everything was always perfect from the outside looking in. You know what I'm saying? That even when I was a child, they told me he worked a graveyard shift, as in working. I didn't realize at the time, as a child, I thought he worked at an actual graveyard. You know what I'm saying? Because as a child thinks. I was telling Mateo that even walking in, waking up as a child and walking into the living room and, you know, when I was really going to go to the bathroom, walking into the fucking living room and there's a full-on orgy going on. But I don't know what I'm looking at because to me, it looks like a bunch of people wrestling with their clothes off or fighting. So I don't know what the fuck that is. I didn't realize the abuse that he was perpetrating on my mother, the physical abuse by whooping her ass every time she fucked up, or even whooping the hoes that he had ass when they didn't bring the fucking money.
But
now,
I wanna highlight that he was not beating y'all ass.
No, he never put a hand on us as a kid.
Because you talked in your conversations about him. I don't want to say that you spoke highly of him, but you spoke respectful of him.
Because that is part of the trauma. Because even him as a person, I've forgiven that man. He's passed away. I have forgiven that man. And at the same time, he was really the only father figure I ever fucking had in my life. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of things that I wanted to emulate. And as I got older, I didn't realize how much all of that shit affected me. You know what I'm saying? Me not giving a fuck about bitches and being more concerned about money and really fucking with people, playing with their heads, playing with their minds. Women.
Is that why you answer things the way you answer things?
100%.
Because we've had we got other podcasts, but I noticed when you answer things, it's kind of like, fuck that. Give me the money. Like,
yeah, it's either this or that. There's no gray area because, like, as a pimp.
How old were you? What age are we talking?
From like I said, from when I was an infant up until about 6 or 7 years old. So those are the most informative years of a person's life.
Yeah,
You're soaking up all this shit. So there was violence, there was drugs, there was sex, there was abuse, there was all of this shit going on.
There was sex.
Well, I just told you I walked in as a child seeing orgies and shit, but not knowing what I was looking at.
Okay.
Now, as I got older, I did speak to him when I was older, and I did recognize, oh shit, Ronnie was a pimp. But how I took that was like, shit.
Did he fess up?
Oh yeah, I spoke to him many times.
He fessed up to you.
Yeah. No, I brought it to him, but he apologized before I had even had a chance. You know, but more so he was apologizing because he had come a long way. You know what I'm saying? And he was
religious.
He was apologizing about the abuse he perpetrated on my mom. He didn't realize the trauma all of that caused us, me, my brother, and my sister growing up. Because let me digress again. Listen. So as I'm an adult now, a young adult, I don't give a fuck about a bitch. And if a motherfucking bitch has a fucking wrong answer for me, the only answer that I know is to be physical. Because what I saw was, okay, they're arguing. He just slapped my mom. Now she shut the fuck up and everything looks back to perfect again. So in my mind, that is how you operate within a relationship.
We spoke about people experiencing things differently, and I don't like to speak on people that aren't here, but in general, did it affect your sister and your brother differently? Rest in peace to your brother, but did it affect them differently than it affected you?
Listen, we all grew up with a propensity for fucking violence.
Okay.
Like a real propensity for violence. Now, mind you, we're not violent. I'm not a violent person. Even when all of these things were happening, because after Ronnie, when my mom finally escaped, I say that, and I don't mean that lightly, because there were multiple times where we were woke up 3 or 4 in the morning and pulled out of bed and we're running from him. And I've been in places where my mom thought she was hiding, and he found her, kicked the door in, and pistol whipped motherfuckers and drug her.
And you saw this?
Yes,
Jesus
I saw
Christ.
all this shit growing up.
I can't even fathom a child, man. Just I can fathom it because I've seen it, but like just a child seeing that, man. Like you're 5, 6 years old, and you're just the door's like boom, like
and he's in there pistol whooping the shit out
by
of
your mind. You're just watching
that
oh
had
shit
her in the house,
man.
But
Dude, that's heavy trauma.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit to it, but it got worse after she really escaped, because now the breadwinner's gone. We have nothing. We went from being millionaires to having nothing. Then my mother started doing drugs, heroin, really bad. And if anybody knows anything about anybody that does heroin or has a heroin addiction, is a fucked up road. It's a fucked up road. Now I'm being put in front of. Now I'm fucking turning into a teenager, and I'm being put in front of grown ass men that are trying to whoop my mom's ass because she owes money. There's all kinds of situations that she's got herself into, and because of the way we were raised and the way we were told. And so you're not fucking with my mom. We're like, at a very young age, getting guns put in my face. Grown-ass men wanting to kill me, wanting to kill my brother, wanting to kill my sister. You know what I'm saying? Like, just that shit seemed like it was never going to end. And even when it did end, now I'm on my own. At 16, I'm on my own. I got my own place. I'm doing my own shit. But every fucking thing always reverted back to that shit. So I was making poor ass decisions. I was doing fucked up shit to people, but on the inside, I'm still the person that you know right now today. I want to help people. I want to do the right thing. I live to do the right thing. But if I wasn't really aware of how that shit had affected me as an adult. I wasn't really aware of it. I wasn't aware of it for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So being aware is key as fuck.
So the reason that he would have you guys dress nice and look good and have your mom look good and everything was because of the police, so you guys could look like a family?
No. It was all a persona. Ronnie, up until the time he passed away, I'd never ever not seen that man in a suit. He wore a suit even when he didn't have money.
So I understand.
So like the whole thing, like I say it even to my kids, even when I'm broke, even when I'm bummy, I don't look bummy. You know what I'm saying? This kind of shit was ingrained in me as a child, like not to look a certain way and to carry yourself a certain way. All of these things were ingrained in me as a child. I was ingrained in me as a child to speak eloquently. You know, we talked about that earlier. I was telling you about my mom.
Yeah.
And because even when we lived in shit, she was like, you don't have to, it doesn't mean you have to talk like you don't know shit. You know what I'm saying? Be precise and to the point, and when you speak to somebody, mean what you say and say what the fuck you mean. Stand on that shit. And that's why I stand on a lot of shit. I always have.
Let me ask you something.
Ooh, my neck just got tense as shit.
Can we as a community
Yeah.
and I'm asking you this. I'm asking everyone here. Can we as a community hold these kids who grew up maybe without a father? Do we not hold them to a certain standard because we have to?
Accountable, you mean?
Accountable, like say, all right, this kid grew up without a father. He went through a hell of a life. We need to give him more slack. We have to give him maybe slack's the wrong word. We maybe more space to grow. Like
you can have compassion, but you can't let it go so far. But
you fucked up. If you fucked up as a parent and we're not there for the kid and that kid is fucked up, is there supposed to be a gray area where
you get leeway? We know you were fucked up, so here, just because. No.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking.
You know what they call that? They call that, there's a word for it. They call that enabling.
Look,
enabling.
Unfortunately,
You're right.
in life,
You're right.
there's just things that we cannot help, right? Unfortunately, in life, there's going to be casualties along the way. There's going to be things that you cannot do nothing about. It is not in your power. You cannot overthink the things that are not in your power. Stoicism. You can't, if you can't change something, let's just say I have a friend, right? And I have the ability to help him, but that ability to help him starts affecting me or starts affecting the community or starts affecting the people around you. Unfortunately, you can't help him. There's nothing you could do about certain people. Or are you willing to take the risk of losing a little bit of something, money, time, things, to help this one person? And you gotta talk to yourself and say, you know what? I'm going to try a little bit. I'm going to make sure I don't put myself in a bad situation for it, but I'm still understanding the risk that I'm going to take by helping.
Well, you're talking about helping someone. That's completely different than
let's stick to the kid topic real quick.
What he means, though.
We had Marcelo de Jesus on the show.
Right.
Marcelo de Jesus went to jail at the age of 21 for a murder. I won't get into the details, but he went to jail for a murder, and he spent 21 years in jail. When he went to jail, When he went to jail, Marcelo Jr. was 6 months old. Mm-hmm. So
I remember that
he
show.
gets out of jail. I won't even go into the details, but he gets out of jail and he's now reunited with his son. His son is now 21 years old. He's a grown man. And they were here having the conversation just over there.
The very shit we're talking about.
The very exact thing we're talking about childhood trauma. And Marcelo went into speaking about the trauma that this situation caused him. One, he got ripped from at a small age. He didn't even know, but he got ripped from his father. had to get another father, right? His mom married someone else, and he grew up like with another father, and now his real father comes around, and so it was a heavy situation, man. There was crying, and you could tell there was a lot of trauma in between both.
Yeah.
Even in
Father and
between,
son, yeah.
even in between Marcelo's head was down. He was emotionally distraught. And Marcelo Jr. was just speaking his truth, and it was just a testament to
feeling abandoned, and all of
the
those things.
abandonment, the growing up without a dad, and all that, and it affected them. And yeah, they have a relationship now, but what is the toll that it takes on that relationship?
Shout out to both Marcelos.
And
Shout out to them, man. Peace. If Marcelo, if you're listening, man, Junior and Marcelo Senior, man, peace to y'all, man.
Yeah, peace.
You know.
yeah, and it's a decision, right? And what I mean by helping is, like you said, giving a chance. Do we still, and holding somebody accountable, right? You're giving them a chance. You're helping them. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah.
Do we do this now? Is it that far gone? Is it not? Is this what chance is this?
It's never too far gone, bro. I don't think any situation is never too far. We've talked about mending situations, and I've actually had guests that came on the Shy City Cypher that I had bad situations with after like we met, and then things happened, and I was no longer and would not even talk to them. And they came here and did interviews, bro, and we mended situations and did that. So I don't think it's ever too far to mend the situation unless it's something that's just unforgivable. But even in a situation like Marcelo and Marcelo Jr., dude, that's 21 years in
21
between.
years. That's
21 years of
now,
no hanging out ever.
The resentment level was probably going to be high as shit, because now it's like, well, if my fucking dad was here, I wouldn't have went through the shit that I went through.
But I commend Marcelo Jr. because how grown was he in that conversation?
How gracious.
Jesus Christ, he was super gracious. He was just like, man, I had a hard life. My dad went to jail, but I'm here. I love him. I work with him every day. We work at the same job. His dad got out of jail, got a job at Win Recovery, and got Marcelo Jr. a job at Win Recovery. And then Marcelo Jr. they got like 5 people that work there that they know. So they gave everybody jobs, and including Marcelo's rappies and stuff in his case. So they all got out as well. So yeah, man, it's like,
Shout out Sheba. She says vulnerability is important to embrace so that you can heal. Everybody can heal that way. I agree.
But some people don't want to be vulnerable, and I think that's
another problem.
The beautiful thing about our show, bro, and even about like just when you're vulnerable, when I'm vulnerable, when we've had situations on the show that have been our life situations, we sit here and we put this shit on the table.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, I wasn't ready for the conversation a lot of the times. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear you tell me that I was wrong, or even hear one of the homies in the audience say, man, no, like this isn't right, but being vulnerable, how else are you going to grow? That's how you
Facts.
grow. Put your shit on the line, be a man, grow up, be a man, put your shit on the line and own that shit up, man. I'll end this thought with saying this. Every time somebody has did me dirty, or I know that they're a dirty person, I was telling one of my girls the other day, I said, you know what? They're the ones that have to deal with it every day. They have to wake up in the fucking mirror and stare at themselves in the face and know that they're not real, that they're not 100, that they stole from people. And to be honest, that's the best repayment for me. Fuck it if I lose. It only cost me $40, $50 to lose a person if that's what it was they owed me, but they have to deal with it every day.
Sheba says the lack of vulnerability delays growth. Yes, it takes time, but so worth the effort.
Yeah.
Again, one of the biggest parts of all of that, when you say looking in the mirror, is really being able to look in the mirror and be fucking honest with yourself about what the fuck you're doing, who you are, and whatever those things are. Because when you start on this journey, you and I started on this journey kind of haphazardly. You know what I'm saying? It was it was a show that was supposed to be about some other shit, and it turned into this. And I'm fucking grateful as fuck that it did. But even you and I doing this show, we have to come to a realization like, oh, we can't just talk this talk. We got to walk this fucking walk.
And those are personal, for those are personal conversations that you and me have, and that lets me know that what we're doing is real, and it's a thing, because you come to me and you've said that, dude, we can't just, and I've said that to you, right?
Yeah.
Remember, you've had situations, and I came and I said, Heat, we talk about mental health, we talk about reaching out, we talking about all this stuff, man. You have to live that shit too.
Yeah.
What the
100%.
fuck? We just did a show on Sunday. You can't be like this right now. You know, so yeah,
Holding
man.
each other accountable,
that's-
but a lot of that shit, bro. I don't mean to cut you off, but a lot of, you know, when you have trauma and an extreme amount of trauma in your life, you know what I'm saying? The hardest part is recognizing the trauma and where it came from. That's one of the steps. That's like the first step, and that's hard to admit. A lot of people don't want to admit. Goes back to looking in the mirror and saying, "Okay, fuck, you mean my mom was responsible for this shit? My mom was responsible for this thought process, or this and this, or it could be sexual abuse or whatever, and you or anything like that, and you say to yourself, "Oh fuck, that's why I'm like this," or that's whatever, or even acknowledging the fact that it even happened, because a lot of times we'll stuff things down because we don't want to deal with them.
Aquarius. We talked about that earlier when Carla G was here and she asked us our signs and we started talking about it, and I said, yeah, Aquarius, and I was real like free flowing about it, and I said, yeah, Aquarius because, and I'm an Aquarius, and I said Aquarius because we don't want to deal with situations. It's easier for me. I got a chemical, I think Cat Williams made the joke, but I got a chemical in me. It's called I don't give a fuck. Fuck it. You know?
No, but that comes from a place. That comes from a place, bro.
I ain't dealing with it right now.
That comes from a place. I know that because I
I'd
lived
rather
it.
go this way and put this shit to the side and have to deal with it somewhere along the line, and it's fucked up. But that's just
That's not a chemical, my nigga. That's comes from trauma that you've already dealt with. That's exactly what that comes from. Because your inability to deal with it is like, well, my stance is I don't give a fuck. So that's the same thing. That is the very same thing as taking that fucking shit, and instead of dealing with it, you push it the fuck down.
But I don't give a fuck for the sanity of my peace. And I said this to you. We've had conversations, and I said, Heat, I don't want to fight no more, bro. And I'm not talking about you and me. I don't want to fight no more. I don't want to fight people. I don't want to fight women. I don't want to be in arguments. I don't have that fucking space for
because
that energy.
You're getting to a place. Because you're getting to a place. Look at what she just read. What the fuck she just wrote.
If you face you and have a plan to change the narrative, you are gonna elevate. Won't be any place to go but up. Yeah,
and you're getting
but the
to a
facing
place.
you is the heart. I think maybe I am. You know what? I take it back. I think I am facing me in this situation because I'm finally saying, dude, I am fucking done. I'm 40 years old. I've had plenty of relationships, arguments, fights, disastrous,
and where
toxic
did
shit.
all of that shit come
and I'm
from?
done.
But
I'm done.
But in order to get where you need to be, where does all of that stem from? And it's
It
I
stems
guarantee
from the
you, it's
trauma.
childhood trauma.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a buildup of 40 years of including childhood trauma, my
Right.
dad going to jail, my mom fighting, hearing my dad fucking say like, "What, son?" Shit, all that shit I never forgot. I can't. You know what's crazy about that memory is I can't tell you how old I was when that happened. I just remember being in a hotel room on a vacation somewhere and my mom saying, "You're gonna walk out on your son," and my dad saying, "What, son?" And I never forgot.
It's crazy.
And I don't doubt for a second that
fucked with you because you bring it up as an adult. That was a traumatic thing for you to hear. You maybe not understood it really clearly at that particular time, but you understood it enough that to this day, you remember it.
But now as an adult, I know for sure that my dad didn't. He was saying that to piss my mom off.
Right. But it affected
He's
you.
my fucking twin, so I don't for a second doubt that that's my dad. But I believe in that moment he was just trying to hurt her.
But it
and maybe
affected
that's
you.
his trauma
Right.
from being a fucking.
You ever heard of generational trauma?
Look, my dad said to me, we started hugging at some point, like in older age, and my dad said to me, my father never, which is my grandfather, rest in peace, Cosme. He said, my father never hugged me and told me he loved me. And I just thought I couldn't fathom that because my dad had said, he told me he loved me plenty times,
right.
But I couldn't fathom his life growing up as a kid and his father never putting his arm around him and saying, son, I love you. What the fuck? Like, Who the fuck was he then? Like, he's my grandfather still, but I'm just thinking like, Jesus Christ. But then go back even further. What the fuck did he go through? For him to have never hugged his son and said, I love you, son, to my dad, what did that guy go through? Like, and how many generations of that shit exists? Like, but I think we're breaking the code right now, and shows like Unwrap and things like the people we associate with, we're breaking that curse, bro. We're breaking it, and we're having conversations with Jason. And dude, this is great, man. This is good shit.
Sometimes things are not as bad as you think they are, And
Don't fool yourself. Don't be delusional about life. I'm dead ass, because when things are bad, that's exactly what the fuck they are. They're bad.
I have a different perspective on that.
And you can have that perspective all you want. But let's be really clear about something. Good, bad, this shit in the middle, delusional. If you broke your leg, you don't go, well, I kind of broke it. The motherfucker was broke. That's bad. You don't fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is no,
okay.
Good and bad is not a fucking perspective, bro.
Okay, whoa. You went too deep right there. You went a little too deep.
How?
Because you exactly said the way I think. Because
Well, then
good
say
and
that.
bad is a human-made concept. It doesn't exist to me. And I'm going to tell you why.
To you.
I believe it doesn't exist.
Okay.
And look, you think about this, right? You say, this is bad. This is good. How do you know what? Okay, there's only
now you're speaking semantics. No.
there's
Because you're
only
saying
things that happen in life.
okay, it snowed today. To me, that's good. To you, that's bad. Yes,
Exactly.
semantics.
What is it?
We're not talking about that though. We're talking about trauma.
But
We're talking about bad shit.
But look, that's the thing. That's a perspective.
Bad
Because
shit is
if
not a
you
perspective.
believe that that's bad, you're gonna go. If I say, "Oh my God, I feel this anxiety. This is bad."
Where do you think
No,
anxiety comes from?
But
Where do you
if you
think
feel this anxiety and you're like, "I understand what's going on with my body. This is
Oh.
not bad. I'm gonna recognize it."
No.
And now I can move forward.
Exactly. What the fuck have I been saying? In order to get to that place where you're at, sir, you have to fucking recognize it. In order to get to the place that you are right now, you had to recognize it.
Yeah.
And you had to deal with it.
And you have to have a different
And
perspective.
you had to slow down. Because in order for you to get to where you are right now, sir, and have that perspective, you had to know that bad shit. You had to recognize that bad shit. You had to acknowledge that bad shit. Then you had to say, now I'm going to make the steps to change that bad shit. Period. That's
No.
why now your perspective is what it is.
But that's the thing. There's things
outta
that people will tell you that's bad, and you do not know how much that will
Exactly.
benefit you. Because why? Because someone says that this is bad.
I said again, semantics.
No,
That's like the snow is good outside. It's cold. I love the cold. And I say, fuck that. It's freezing. That's good to you, bad to me. We're not talking about that. We're talking about trauma.
But people experience and trauma different ways.
Exactly,
Yes.
because of their perspective of
Yeah,
it. Because if someone
trauma
says
is not a
trauma
perspective.
We said that
No,
earlier.
not trauma.
We
Your
said that earlier.
perspective of the trauma
we
itself.
did say that
No,
earlier.
but I
We
know,
said
but
everybody experiences
Understand-
trauma
But
differently.
understand what the fuck I'm saying
That's
to
what
him.
he's saying.
I know, but understand what I'm saying to him. He's saying that he recognized this, and then that, and this is why he moves the way he moves now. But in order to recognize that shit, he had to recognize it was bad and not good for him.
What does that mean? There's things in life that benefit you, and there's things that don't. But the good and bad
In order
thing.
to get there, in order to get to that thought process, you had to have an awakening. You had to have a moment. You had to have an epiphany. You had to have whatever in the fuck it was. I'm not yelling at you like I'm mad at you.
No. This
No, I'm
is
just
great.
saying.
I love the conversation.
So
It's
in
amazing.
order to get there, you have to acknowledge the fact. Look at what Sheba says. Read what she says. Facing the reality of a matter will help you process good and bad. Your processing of it can evolve to a positive place, but does not remove the bad of the event. So when we're talking about trauma,
That's facts. Facts. I see
I
it that way.
beg to differ.
you
because
differ because your thought process now is different.
the benefit of it. It
Okay.
doesn't benefit me. It benefits me. But bad and good, really? Look, it's like the guy that brought the horse to his dad, right? So the guy that brought the horse to his dad said, "Look, Dad, I got a horse." The dad said, "Great." He said, "This is great, right?" And the dad said, "No." The dad was already thinking who was gonna change the horse's horseshoes, who was gonna do the work. Why? Because his perspective was that's good for him and bad for the other.
Man, look.
Shout out Sid Vicious watching the Rumble.
Shout out to you and the place that you've grown since the last time I saw you and everything. Shout out to you for the growth and everything in your journey. You know what I'm saying? We all have our own journey in all of this. You know what I'm saying? I'm having my journey, and every day I wake up, there's something new I've got to confront and I've got to deal with, and I got to make sure that I do better by that particular thing or whatever it is, because it's every day. It's an everyday process. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my co-host Jizzo for his journey. Shout out to Mateo. Shout out to everybody that's making this journey. But in order to get to that place, you must recognize, because you can't get to where you are right now and have that thought process, sir, if you did not recognize these certain things were bad for you.
Let me stop you. We talked about the alcohol earlier.
Right. What about it?
You were against this same thought process.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, I said that you have to acknowledge the fact that
I-
you had a problem and you
No,
were
I
just
acknowledge the fact that I had a problem. I never said that. I acknowledge the fact that it was a fucking problem.
He
What I
doesn't
won't
live in
acknowledge,
that.
what I won't acknowledge is the fact that everybody thinks that it's a fucking problem for me not drinking. I won't acknowledge that shit. I won't acknowledge the fact that I'm supposed to think about drinking every day. To me, it's done and over with.
Don't they say the 12 steps every day?
Whatever the fuck
Why
it
do
is.
they say it?
I also said I'm also not the person that needs rehab. I don't feel I do, and I have shown that I don't.
But I just think the point I was
Because
trying to...
my steps in my journey are different. You may need rehab. I know somebody right now that quit drinking almost the same time that I did, and they're taking shots and shit, drugs and shit to try to stop drinking, and they can't.
But I was just relating it to the thought that you were currently saying about we do have to acknowledge those
I
things.
did
And
acknowledge.
that was my whole point,
No, I
brother.
did. I acknowledge it
It's
every
just
day.
to say that we have to say
I
this
acknowledge it every
happened.
day. I acknowledge it every day.
This happened.
But in order for me to acknowledge, in order for me to even acknowledge my drinking, I had to know where that came from and what drove me to drink.
Childhood trauma.
Childhood trauma.
Yeah.
One of the
fuck outta
ways
here.
that I'm able to live my
Why
life.
are you saying fuck out of here? No,
No,
let's-
no.
What do you mean?
I'm just in my mind. There's a lot of shit going on.
No,
You know what I'm saying? I
on
don't
the
mean fuck. I don't
s-
mean
we're
fuck
on
out
the
here for
same
you.
page though.
Yo,
That's
no,
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying. I think
he's
we just.
talking about-
I'm thinking
yeah.
out loud, like
But
fuck out here, like
fuck outta here.
anybody.
I think we
like,
both
whatever,
just
you know
brought
what I'm
both
saying?
of our points together that, yeah, man, the childhood trauma affects you no matter what fucking stage you're in, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever it is. It's gonna fucking keep affecting you.
So one of the reasons I live my life the way I live it, and people all constantly are telling me, a lot of people constantly how do you do that? How can, I wish I was like you, and I hear it. You know, I hear
hear
wish
that shit all the
I wish
time.
I could think of. I wish I had your perspective. I wish, you know. But one of the reasons is because of this perspective of there is no good and bad. And I'm gonna tell. Okay, before you guys say anything, right? I hate when someone says, "What?" Okay, back then I had depression and anxiety, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I started feeling anything coming in, these thoughts, because they creep in, and all of a sudden they start grabbing you, and you're like, "Oh my God, I fucked up, man. I can't believe this. I'm afraid to do this again." Lock yourself in a dark room. What was my perspective of what that anxiety and depression was? That was what? Bad.
Bad.
As soon as I left that whole bad and good shit, my life changed. Why?
that was
Because
my-
there's only things in life that happen.
But you
And
did
do
acknowledge
things-
that it was bad.
No. The thing is, in the beginning when I did, it started affecting me because I already thought that
You still had to get to that
anxiety
place.
is bad.
You
Now,
st- you still
I
had-
get anxiety, I don't even feel it
But-
because
but
my
you had-
perspective of it
it has
is
changed.
something that happens, not bad and good. It's just, what am I going to do with this event that life is putting in front of me? What am I going to do with this chemical imbalance in my brain? Because there is no bad and good.
But you still have to know that it's bad to do something
That it
against
doesn't
though.
benefit you. That it
Well,
doesn't
that-
progress. That
Okay, but you still have
You
to
had to
recognize
acknowledge it.
the lack of progress that it has on you in order to do something against it, in order to flip it for something good. Like, I understand what you're trying to mean. Like, you take...
It's deep.
You
It's-
don't know if it's bad or good. You know, it could be good at the end of it, but...
No, there is no bad and good in my mind. It doesn't exist. There's just things that happen, events that happen in life. Big shout out to Showshot that has my
You
same
elim-
view on this. Big shout out
You
Showshot.
eliminated good and bad from your life.
Yes, there is no perspective. Because look,
So is this good or what we're doing now? Is this good or bad?
it's something that benefits humanity, right?
AKA good.
So, but now there's a person that what? It might not benefit them.
They're assholes.
So
That's because that person hasn't gotten to a certain place.
They're not at that healing
No,
point. At
Everything
that,
happens to everybody at their own time.
He might not need this in his life, or this might be
Yeah.
something that is not beneficial for him to progress in
Yeah.
life.
I
If you
guess.
say, yeah,
No,
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Just like I don't need to get shot in my fucking ass with drugs to make me stop drinking.
You don't
yeah.
need
I don't
rehab.
need it. I don't need rehab.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
might
need
have
to
a
tell-
different way of handling it.
We all handled it different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't know the difference. It doesn't, and in order for me to get there, in order for me to get to that place, I have to acknowledge where that shit fucking came from. And it came from trauma. Your anxiety came from trauma. The shit that you were dealing with, the depression, came from trauma. And once you recognize that, you were able to move forward and change your line of thinking and change, okay, from this point on, no good or bad for me. Because that's where I work and do my best at. If
That's
I say,
where I overthink that. That's not good. And then, what benefit does
I'm
that
saying-
come to another person
I'm saying that
from that
what
thing
I'm
that I
saying
thought
to
wasn't good?
Jason, what I'm saying to you is, when you recognize that you got yourself to a point to say where you said, okay, I'm not fucking with that shit. So for me, I'm talking about you. For me, and I'm just my thoughts. For me, right now, I'm no longer going to think or perceive good or bad. I'm going to live in this middle ground, not even a middle ground, but I'm going to say, hey, I don't believe in good or bad, and I'm going to function in this manner, and it works for you.
So, right?
I mean, that's really what you're saying.
I'm going to get deep into this. It's fast, though. Imagine that person that I can't help, right? Remember we were talking about the people that, unfortunately, it'll start affecting us in our life if we help them. You know, Maria, I've tried to help you. I gave you money. I try to get you off this drug problem.
Stop. Time out.
No,
We are not in charge. You cannot help
let him get
somebody.
his
You
thought
can't.
off.
A person has to fucking
Let
do
him
it
get
and get
his
to
thought
that.
off, dog.
But
Let him
it's
get his-
it's a redundant fucking thought. It's a redundant fucking statement. Because at the end of the day, you can't help
dog.
everybody. You can't.
You can't. So that's what
You
I'm
can't.
getting to.
But
she's going to look at me as
the bitch
you're
hasn't got what
bad.
she needed to be.
You're
In her
you're
time, not
bogus
yours.
for not helping me this
In
time.
her
I really
time, not
needed
yours.
You gotta let the dialogue happen.
But
you have to let the dialogue happen.
Sure, you can have a conversation with the person, but it's going to happen regardless
This
in their
is
time or
helping
not.
other people, so
I
you
know,
have
but
to let-
also too.
You have to let it happen
Alright.
because it's helping other people.
But if it's-
So
if
look,
it's a redundant-
me not helping
Let it
her,
happen.
me not
Yeah, let
it
helping her,
happen.
if I started looking in bad and good too deeply, I would go too deep in the whole, man, I was a fucked up person for not helping her. Maybe that would have been the time that she would have changed. So you start overthinking that something is good and bad, but there's just events in life that presents itself, and you got to make these hard decisions.
Then that just means that you're ignoring your problem.
No.
So then what is it?
The truth about it is that even if you make the decision that you think was the good decision, the outcome usually is not going to be the same outcome that you might expect. When you have too much expectancy in life, I think that that's the beginning of all suffering, right? So when you expect that life should be a certain way and it should be like this, and that girl was supposed to be mine, and that car was now you have this thing where you expect that life should be a certain way, and things are not bad and good. There's just events that happen. Boom, finger comes off, right? All of a sudden, what happens? This is bad. This is horrible. I have no finger. Now, the function of your other hand.
Okay, so tell me right now. So if a 4-year-old girl gets shot tonight, bad or good?
Not bad or good. It was something that happened in life. So
That's crazy because I can't roll past that one. That's bad.
No.
That's bad.
no, those
That's
are
bad
things
no
that
matter
happen
what.
in life.
So you don't.
You have to be truthful about what life is. Life is a balance.
Okay, Jason.
right?
How about this? How about this? You die tonight.
Balance.
No.
is
You die tonight. Is
I-
that good or bad? You die tonight. I'm not.
Neither.
God bless us. I'm not. I
Neither.
don't want no one to die.
I've already accepted that this is going to end. When you accept death in your life and you completely embrace something so beautiful as death, we would not live the way we live now if we didn't know we were going to die.
Okay, now.
I get what you. I
A
go.
4-year-old girl probably doesn't understand that concept at this moment, but what I'm trying to say is that was a separate question from what he asked.
It's two different
It's two different. But what I'm saying
You
is,
comprehend that.
you have to look. Let's say you, right? You have a 4-year-old girl,
No,
right?
no, Jason, hear me out though. She's 4 years old. She doesn't even have the mental capacity to even understand what you're talking about. So how does she understand death?
She's not the one. That was a separate question. Like I
It's a
said,
separate
what I'm trying to
question.
say is that event of her getting killed, when you're another human, right, and you understand that there's just events in life that happen, it prepares you to be a better human because you don't have an expectancy of things going a certain way.
But going
You're blind.
Sad.
I
Boom.
feel like
you're
you're
able to overcome
Exactly
this
what
thing
I'm
a lot
saying.
easier.
but
that-
going back to what
you
I'm
have
saying,
an
how
open
she
perspective.
that's a way to deal with trauma. I think that's your. I think that's just
Stuffing. That's called stuffing.
That's just your way to deal with trauma. You decide all right, if someone dies, it's not bad, it's not sad, it's just a life event. It makes it easier for you to deal with life.
It doesn't.
You deal with life as you're walking through your day every day before you got here and you're on your way here. You deal with life easier that way, knowing that in your mind, if I fucking die, it's a life event. Oh well, if my mom dies, it's just a fucking life event. Like,
Look,
people thought that-
I get where you're coming from because you said balance, but balance is really it's a goal, but it's never attainable because you can't have the good without the bad. You can't have bad without the good.
He's saying there
You
is
know?
none.
But
So-
look,
But
it's
so they
okay,
both have to exist for even balance to even exist.
So mountains, right? Mountains have a peak, and they have the slope, right? The mountain peak cannot exist without the slope. They're symbiotic. So what ends up happening is this: when you understand that life has things that happen that might not be beneficial and things that are beneficial, and then things that just happen, you start understanding life in a different perspective.
Again, in order to get there, in order for Jason to get where he is, to have that balance that you have, you had to acknowledge some things beforehand. Regardless if you thought they were good or bad, you still had to acknowledge them. Now, let me take another step back real quick.
And that's how I got there,
Right.
by changing the perspective.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But you still had to acknowledge the shit first. Period. Because you cannot change your perspective on something if you don't even know what the fuck it is. So you had to acknowledge that good or that bad before you even made a fucking change of perspective. Period. That's in the discussion because there's nowhere there's no wiggle room for that. Because you had to acknowledge something in order to get on this path and on this road that you're on. Okay, now let me
The
digress.
concept went away. Not
Okay.
acknowledge that good or bad.
Okay.
The whole concept. Like,
But you
was
still
thrown-
had to get from here to get to that. You had to. Okay, now let me digress real quick because I was sitting back listening, keeping my mouth shut. My co-host said, I need to let you fucking talk. It's fine, good. When you talk about death and you're talking about preparing yourself for death, I would literally had this conversation earlier with Mateo, and we're talking about expectations, and then it goes back to what I said earlier. You cannot hold the past hostage, and you cannot try and kidnap the future. I know I'm going to die. This is inevitable. Everybody in this room knows they're going to die. We don't know how it's going to happen, but we know it's going to fucking happen. So am I reserved to that? Do I understand that? Yeah. Do I understand it fully? No, because I'm not a fucking guru and I'm not none of that type of shit, but I do know what's going to happen to me. I watched it happen to my mother. I've watched it happen to multiple people in my life. How I deal with those things, how I understand those things are different than they were X amount of years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever the fuck the case may be. But to pull us right back onto the tracks about trauma, because we act out and we do shit because of things that happened to us in the past. Jason doesn't have anxiety and depression and suffer from it because the world's bad. Jason has anxiety and depression because of things that have happened to him, and Jason at that particular time didn't understand those things. I didn't understand in all of my drinking that all I was doing was pushing all of this shit down and not dealing with them. Because the moment that they all came bubbling to the surface, and I've talked about it on the show before, I was literally ready to off myself. And thank God this man came, and because everything that I had dealt with my entire fucking life brewed up and came to the fucking surface all at once. At least it felt like that. Everything all at once. And I didn't have the tools, nor did I even understand how to fucking deal with them. And I didn't want to. And because I didn't want to, because all the years of drinking and stuffing all that shit down and not having to deal with it, you know what I'm saying? Now I got to deal with it. I don't have the space for this shit. I don't know what the fuck this shit is. I can't think. I can't. My thought process is fucked up. I can't even keep my brain focused on one tiny little fucking thing because everything else is telling me, fuck it, kill yourself. It's over with. But even that, I had to get to that point to understand other shit. Was that point in my life good or bad? By your perspective, it was nothing. But my perspective and other people around that care about me and love me and me learning to love myself, that shit was horrific. And I'm still traumatized from that moment that I lived, that I have to be reminding myself every day of those thoughts that I was having that fucked with my head and still to this day fuck with my head. I'm grateful for this motherfucking man right here. I'm grateful to my wife upstairs. I'm grateful to my son. I'm grateful to the friends that stood by me when I desperately needed them.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Real shit. Now, however you see that is however you see it.
That was a bad situation to me.
But
I'm outside of but that was a bad situation, and I'll consider it a bad situation.
What? Okay, I want to ask you.
But
did you benefit anything from that situation?
okay, then again, semantics.
No,
Semantics.
I'm just
Because
saying-
okay, no, but
No, answer it. Yes, you
I'm
did.
gonna answer. I'm gonna answer. Allow me to answer. I didn't.
I'm just saying that.
Of course I did.
He has an answer.
Of course I did. I did, but I had to go through it first.
Yes.
So was
I
it
had to
bad?
go through it first. No. Fuck yeah, it was bad. It was the worst, and it was even worse for the people around me. It was bad. But in order for me to get better and feel better and to realize that I need to be on a fucking journey, that had to happen.
So you're
Like
gonna
that,
get
it
here
had to
right
happen.
now, right?
Yeah.
For you to be the person you are
Dude,
right now.
It had to happen. But I had to acknowledge it. Because if I don't acknowledge it, you know what I'm doing? I'm drinking, I'm fucking around, and I'm not giving a fuck, and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. So when Jason gets to the point in his life where the fucking trauma or the fucking anxiety or the depression was too much, and Jason says, God damn it, fuck good and bad, I'm making a change, but you still had to recognize that shit first. At the end of the day, that's all I'm saying. At the end of the day, you had to
So-
recognize that shit came from somewhere,
Exactly.
and you made a change.
When I acknowledge something, I don't acknowledge it already with the perspective of good and bad. That's all I'm saying. Like,
Okay, but that's where you are now.
Yeah.
But you had to get
When
there.
I did,
when you were
I
born, that was good, right?
no, I mean, why
What
would
you
that be-
mean, no? What do you mean, no? When you were born, it wasn't good. That's what I'm saying. We're evading
Good. Well, okay,
We're
good.
we're evading
for
things
who?
that are open and closed.
Good for who? How do
Sheba
you know
says,
that didn't
no,
ruin
we're
my
talking
mom's
about
life?
childhood trauma. Children need to be healthy, way to process, and then when they don't get it, you hope in their adult life they live and truly learn. Yeah, see, this is what we're talking about.
Let me say this, bro. This show has always been open to however the fuck people deal with trauma. That's how they deal with it, and
Right.
I'm gonna put that out there, regardless of what Jason is
I'm
saying.
not attacking him. I'm not attacking him.
And I want to make that
I'm
point.
challenging him.
I want to. Yes, we're challenging. I want to make that point. We are not going against. He's challenging the thought. Why? Because we have these conversations and this dialogue for us. You people that are watching, us that are here. We have this dialogue for us.
Sheba says the balance of life is good and evil. Ain't no remix that. Okay, I mean you have your that's your perception.
That's his
and
perception.
your opinion.
It's fine.
It's
That-
fine.
If
I'm
you
just
Somebody else might.
challenging that.
Did you know what though? Here's the positive part. Is that somebody else is probably gonna deal with their problems the way Jason's dealing with it based off this conversation.
True. And it may take
If
them to a
that
better
fucking
place
makes them
or
better, if that
a place
makes
that's
them
not
better,
but not good or bad.
if that makes them
whatever the
better,
fuck.
bro. If someone tells you I became a better person because I decided to think like Jason does,
Good.
that ain't up to us, bro.
Right, I didn't
look,
say it was.
it goes really
Salute
deep.
to you. You became I don't give a fuck if you're Muslim, atheist, this or that. If you become Mateo, if you tell me I'm atheist and I don't believe in God, which I know is not the case with you, but if you were to say that to me and you the same solid motherfucker that you are right now, I will accept. I won't give a fuck. I'll be like, yeah, that's just Mateo. He doesn't believe in God, but he's a solid brother to me. Like, and I know people like that. Somebody that didn't believe in God that fucking gave me $500 to go to California. They didn't believe in God. I was praying to God that I would get the $500, and she just didn't have a God and just gave me the $500. So
I'm gonna be able to accept things in life so much easier with my perspective than the person that has this perspective in life that this is like this and this is like that.
That's
Why?
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Because in the future, when things come in, look, I had a friend I have a friend that has diabetes. She started going blind, right? She started going blind, and she's like, "This is horrible," you know? And I said, "This is horrible. So you're already telling yourself that this is a bad thing?" I was like, no. You better stop right now. You're alive. You're alive. What? Look, so let's just say you
So is
lose
that
your
not, like,
vision.
That's not counting the good things, or is it?
Or the way you're looking at it, good and bad. That's not counting the thing that might benefit you. I bet you if you lose your vision, you could meditate a lot
But
better.
is a benefit not good for you?
that's
at the end of the
semantics,
day?
bro. I lose if you lose your vision, you're a better
Sheba
fucking
says he
break.
has
you
great
will.
points. Sheba says he has great points, but a child should never be asked to see abuse as just something that happened. It's not good or
No.
bad.
Yeah,
Oh
it
no.
has-
No,
And that's
it's
adult
not. It's not about that. It's about the way
childhood.
you handle things in life. You're not gonna expect a child to understand all your perspective. And the truth is you wanna, right? Your goal is still what benefits him. What can cause this child to live a better life? And look, I'm big on minimizing the suffering. Shout out to the Buddha, straight up minimizing suffering in your life. Your perspective in life can minimize the suffering. You cut my finger off right now, and if my perspective in life is that this is a bad thing, I am gonna suffer more than the person that's perspective in life is, okay, keep it going. So what? F the finger. I don't care. I bet you my left hand works better. Why? Because I don't think about good and bad. It doesn't exist. We made it up as humans. These are perspectives. Oh, bad, evil, and good. No, you're overthinking it. Now, do I help people? Do I become a better person? Do I
Wait a minute. Wouldn't being a better person constitute being good?
No, it'll be a person that can better himself to his benefit.
The word better. The word better.
So, like, even the words that we're speaking right now, they cannot begin to explain things that we're always looking the answers for. The truth is, life.
So then choose a better word then. Choose a word that is appropriate for what you're saying.
I think we've been kind of stuck on this topic for like
Nah, but anyway,
a couple
we're gonna
minutes
end it
now.
right now, but like we always do. But thank you for coming, man. This shit's been amazing. We're gonna end the show, and like we always do at the end of the show, we're gonna ask everybody for the last words on the topic and words on whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna start with you. You're the guest tonight, so you start us off with your last words on everything we talked about tonight.
Alrighty, is it okay if I promo for what's to come?
Whatever you do, man.
Alrighty, so I want to give a big shout out to Jerson, Gustavo, and my last words would be not to overthink. I would say, don't overthink things.
This
That's
is your for childhood trauma for the topic that we're talking about. Okay.
And that's it.
It still plays into it, you know, because you could still, you know, we're still gonna help, and you know but if we dwell, like, overthinking is dwelling on the past, you know, also too, you know, to a certain extent, and you know, like, living in the
back to what I
now.
said.
Don't overthink it. Just don't
In
overthink.
order to understand that you cannot
Hold it for your last thought. Hold it for your last thought.
Mateo, last thoughts.
Man, I think as far as childhood trauma goes, it's that shit. You know, it applies differently to everybody, and everybody handles it differently. It takes a certain amount of being self-aware in order to use it to a benefit, so to say. And I think it also, you know, I think balance in life is something that's the goal, but isn't necessarily attainable without accepting good and bad. And yeah,
I bet.
Jizzo?
I'll say the opposite of and no offense to you, I'm gonna say the opposite of don't overthink. You need to think things through. When I was a teenager, I'll never forget one time I saw my older cousin sitting on the front steps of his house, and I was sleeping over, and when I walked out, he didn't hear me, and he was talking to himself. And I didn't know what that was. And I walked out and I said, "Hey, are you talking to yourself?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Brian, when you get older, sometimes you have to talk things through with yourself and realize what's good and what's bad in your life." And I never forgot about that. And so, sometimes you do need to talk about that. That's how I feel. You do need to talk about it. You do need to face it. You do need to realize if something's good or bad. I could tell you right now, alcohol is probably bad in my life. Some days it is. Some days I overdrink and I get too drunk. It's bad in my life, and I know that I need to make it better. So definitely think things through. If something's affecting you, reach out to the core of what's the issue of that, because you can't fix anything without realizing the stem of the issue, which is childhood trauma in this situation that we're talking about. So think things through, analyze your life, talk to yourself if you have to, and work through your issues. But whatever way it is that you need to work through your issues, whether it's how I work through them or whether it's how Jason works through them, work it out. I don't give a fuck what it is. As long as you come to us and say, "I worked my problems out." I don't care what method you used, as long as you work them out. So peace to y'all. Jizzle for Shizzle on Instagram, Jizzle Productions on YouTube. I love y'all, man. The Check-In, it's my favorite show.
All right, so I'm going to end this off. No, you had your chance, man. That's why we say last words. You had your chance. Now I'm going to end the show with this. I stated in the beginning of the show that you cannot hold the past hostage and you cannot kidnap the future. Now, in between that statement, you have the moment. You have to live in the fucking moment. And living in the moment means that you have to address these things. You have to address childhood trauma. You have to address the things that are fucking with you. You know what I'm saying? If you don't address these things, you're going to continue to be fucked. You're going to continue to make poor decisions. You're going to continue to not understand why these things are happening. You know what I'm saying? Seek therapy. Therapy is they're not there to give you the answers. They're there to help you with tools to help you figure it out. You got to figure it out. And then you got to execute. That's it. You have to execute. As D-Nick says, he's a shout out to the Microphone Misfits in the comments. We didn't catch you today, brother, man. We'll see you next week. But you have to execute like he always says, as well. Good or bad or indifferent, however you try to you get there. I didn't mean to say try. It doesn't really matter how you get there as long as you get there. You know what I'm saying? I said things to you because I was just challenging what you say, challenging your perspective. Because I feel like in order for you to have gotten to where you are at now, you had to acknowledge that other shit. Whether you see it a different way or not, you were still acknowledging that shit. And you didn't want to be in that shit anymore. You did not want to think like that anymore. You did not want to maneuver like that. But you still had to acknowledge it. And we need to acknowledge, a lot of us as adults, acknowledge our childhood trauma, acknowledge the things that have happened to us, and make the necessary steps to change the line of thinking, to change your behavior, and change your shit, change how you deal with people, and live in the goddamn moment, man. This has been the motherfucking Check-In, boy. We'll see you next fucking Sunday. We'll be back at it. You know what it is, man. Peace, peace.